In the book The Path Between the Seas, David McCullough narrates the stories behind the proposal, construction, and completion of the canal to show that the success at Panama required the adoption of new approaches, techniques, and ideas. McCullough aimed this piece to be for any average citizen. This can be seen by the story-like narration style he adopts to bring the characters and their problems to life, and relate the intricate plot of events to modern day. The historical context is so that the reader can know next to nothing about the history and construction of the canal, but it does not bore the average reader as he explores interesting aspects of the story. This work can be enjoyed by historians, students, and the general public alike, as it offers different perspectives, an accurate view of the situation, and an entertaining read. He split the book into 3 sections: The Vision, Stars and Stripes Forever, and The Builders, each focusing on different aspects while going chronologically, supporting the thesis as the reader sees different struggles, how they progress, and how they are solved by new approaches. This organization also enables him to insert a plethora of specific details that helps establish his personal tone of narrative. McCullough also uses summarizing quotes at the beginning of each chapter that offer a broad view and links together all the specific stories of struggle in the chapter, creating a flawless collection of the story. He starts with the historical background of the canal, including the conceptualization by Alexander von Humboldt in the early 19th century. Then moves on to the French hero and diplomat who completed the Suez Canal in 1869 against all odds, Fernando de la Paz, who at 74 figureheaded the Panama, drawing more support from his name than the actual canal. Then he progresses into the American chapter of the project, telling of the Panama Revolt backed by the United States, and emphasizes the accomplishments of American doctors and engineers. Due to the indifference of de Lesseps to Panama's geography, the canal, from its moment of conceptualization, careened towards failure as they based the design off of the Suez Canal, a sea-level construction that did not fit the Panamanian terrain, as the elevation of the lowest pass on the mountain range reigned 553 feet high, with the mighty Chagres River standing as a huge uncertainty. Still, the French persisted as de Lesseps urged nationalism, bought off newspapers, and hosted the International Congress for Study of an Oceanic Canal, while skewing the cost, estimated time, and lives needed to gain the funds of the citizens who prided him as a national hero through bonds. With this design and poor engineering leadership, the French effort that started in 1881 failed, along with the savings of thousands of his believers, as the Panama Canal Company proclaimed bankruptcy in December 1888, the result of a past assumption and pride. The question of the Chagres River and Panama began to unravel 13 years later, as President Roosevelt argued for the Panama instead of the previous Nicaragua site. Then the Peyton-Pauncefoot Treaty of 1901 invalidated the past Clayton-Brewer Treaty with Britain, leading the U.S. to support the Panama Revolution in 1903 with the USS Nashville. Roosevelt bought the canal land from Panama with $10 million upfront and $250,000 annually. The U.S. then purchased the project from France in 1904 with Major George Washington Goethals as chief engineer. The project split into 3, the Atlantic, Pacific, and Central divisions, which included 3 sets of extraordinary locks and 2 man-made lakes formed by 4 dams.
It's pretty amazing going through the locks. You nose forward into this space, then 26 million gallons of water pour by gravity through underground culverts into that lock and raise you up 30 feet or so. It's an amazing, beautiful, dramatic experience.
And when you're on the ship and you feel it rising up and you move, you feel it rising up and you're witnessing what's happening. A ship climbing a mountain.
This supports his thesis as the lock and lake approach diverges from the past canals and prove essential in the American success. This success gains the United States immense power, both politically and economically. It further proved and solidified the United States' position as a world power by engineering the 48-mile pathway through one of the most treacherous places on Earth, gaining respect and admiration. The canal also provided immeasurable economic advantages, as it greatly reduced the distance of trade between the East and West Coast and other countries. McCullough also characterizes the fate of many workers and engineers that leave for Panama as a death wish, for mortality rates due to yellow fever and especially malaria proved alarmingly high, with rates of survival under 40%, and with more than 75% of hospital patients sick with malaria. For more than 2,000 workers and young engineers, Panama is their last resting place. This tragic atmosphere can be described by worker Alfred Doughton. Death was our constant companion. I shall never forget the trainloads of dead men being carted away daily, as if they were just too much lumber. There are days that we could only work a few hours because of the high fever raking our bodies. It was a living hell. McCullough then points out that one of the main contributors of the problem was the water-filled pots on foots of beds used to keep ants out, but created the perfect nesting place for mosquitoes. It wasn't until Cuban Carlos Finley's theory led William Crawford Gorgas to work on eradicating the breeding ground did the death and suffering lessen. Even then, many discredited their work, choosing to believe in old practices, proving that old theories in Panama needed to be cast aside for workers to live safely and in good health. Evidence includes very accurate primary sources from journals, diaries, recorded scientific data, congressional records, telegrams, and letters written close to the time of the event, and several reliable secondary sources. They form personal stories from which McCullough validates his thesis. Contained in the notes section, all sources are stated by page, followed by a short snippet of the text, and the source. They are further documented in the sources section. McCullough's bias on this piece is not extremely significant, but is sympathetically skewed towards the main characters, especially Americans, as he aims to create an honorable image by refraining from heavy direct criticism. I would definitely include this work in my bookshelf, as it offers diverse views, reliable sources, and an accessible index that both historians and students would enjoy. It also possesses entertaining narrative that makes it interesting for anyone. The Washington Post World reviewed it as solid, entertainingly written, and fair-minded. McCullough unravels a complicated and sometimes deliberately obscured story that lies behind the Panama Canal. From the Daily News, in the hands of McCullough, the digging of the Great Ditch becomes a kind of peacetime epic. The book will absorb you. You won't want to put it down once you've started reading it. Newsweek quoted, "McCullough is a storyteller with the capacity to steer readers through political, financial, and engineering intricacies without fatigue or muddle. This is grand-scale expert work." David McCullough brings one of the greatest constructions completed to life, including over 40 years of personal stories, struggles, and geopolitical issues that created the path between the seas.